Hello, everyone. I'm Eric D'Souza, and we are continuing our interviews with members of Crime Writers of Canada that have been nominated for an award of excellence. Now, this doesn't happen very often, and this time it happened twice, but it's very uncommon. But sometimes we get an author who's been nominated for two awards, so it's going to be a slightly longer interview because we have lots of questions for Melissa Yee. Hi, Melissa. How are you today?
I'm amazing. Thank you so much, Eric.
Let's get to the awards. You've been nominated for Best Juvenile / YA Crime Book, sponsored by Superior Shores Press, with a $250 prize for your story, The Red Rock Killer, published by Wind Tree Press. You've also been nominated for Best Crime Short Story, The Longest Night of the Year, published in Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine. Um, well, let's go to your bio. I interviewed you last year because you were also nominated that year for Best Crime Story Set in Canada. And I know you're super
Best crime
busy.
novel.
Best crime novel, yes. Um, oh yeah. I got this bio from the Madame of Mayhem website, and I'm pretty sure I read it last year, but I like it so much I'm going to read it again. Melissa could slice your throat and sew it back up again, legally because she's an emergency doctor. In her spare minutes, Melissa writes the Hope Sze medical crime series, which Ellery Queen praised for its nitty-gritty description and publishes weekly for its dark themes, entertaining and insightful. The Globe and Mail praises her as a standout, having written the best Canadian suspense novel. Melissa's mystery stories have been finalists for the Awards of Excellence, a Derringer Award for Best Crime Story in the English Language, and longlisted for a Staunch Prize, Best Feminist Thriller Worldwide. And that's doing it short because I was on your website and you've been nominated and won many other awards, but let's keep it to that.
Okay,
Actually,
honestly,
no.
I won the Derringer
Yeah.
in 2023.
Yeah. Your new book, The Red Rock Killer, has also been nominated for many, or won many awards. Winner of the ITW BIPOC Scholarship judged by R.L. Stein. Killer Nashville's Claymores Award finalist for Best Juvenile / YA Manuscript. And winner of the International Thriller Writers Best First Sentence Contest judged by Allison Brennan. Kudos on that one. I didn't know that when I started reading this story, and I'm with Allison. It's a great first line. Let's start there. My mom told me that I could do whatever I wanted the whole summer I turned 14. So I decided to find the Red Rock Killer. Great first line. Where did it come from? Or how hard did it come to you?
So I hope everybody knows that the International Thriller Writers have a best first sentence contest every year. So any member can enter and it's free. So you should do it if you are eligible. And then they have these wonderful bestsellers who will pick their favorite ones. And honestly, I looked at what they liked, and obviously you want to have a character and a hook, and it just came out of nowhere. And I was like, it originally was actually to find the Red Rock serial killer, and it just blew my mind because I just was like, I don't know why this young teenager is searching for a serial killer. It would be the opposite of what I would do, actually. So it just kind of dropped from the sky. There's a line that they say, sometimes a line of poetry will just drop from the sky, and that one dropped from the sky.
Um, you've written many different genres. You've experimented a lot, but why did you choose to write a YA?
I guess it often starts for me character and plot. Like it's going to be one of those two. And for me, this was really character. So as soon as Eden started talking, I was like, I'm going to follow you. I don't know what's going on, but you told me your age and you want to find a killer. So let's do it. I just don't know how you're going to and survive, but no problem. I can follow you.
I started reading it a while ago, and last night I had to force myself to go to bed because I was like,
Okay.
I want to read all of this, and I wouldn't normally say that about a YA novel. One of the things I like about it so much is her voice. It's immersive. Was it hard for you, I can say at my age, I find it difficult to write in a young voice. How hard was it for you?
I guess I just, in some ways, I feel like I never really grew up. So it's not that hard for me. My kids can correct me as well, like, if they think I'm just way out of line. But in general, I just think I remember what it was like to have this like possibility in front of you, but also all this uncertainty. And people always telling you, this is the best time of your life. And just that was an additional pressure, like, okay, it doesn't seem that great, but this is supposed to be the best time of my life. So, okay, must enjoy, So to have this, to have Eden, and she has two best friends, and they also just sprang up. Like, I'm just like, oh, she has two best friends. And one of them is a swimmer. So she's a jock, but a nice one, like, and smart and kind of like, the overachiever, Callie, and Barstow, who is like more computer oriented. He is he has the most disposable income out of the three of them, and I only mention that because Eden has a single mom, and they're not well off, so she feels it a lot. Like, her friends don't talk about it very much, they don't judge her, but she is always worried about it. And I've always felt that, like, my parents and grandparents had come from another country when my parents were small, and they were always worried about money, and that quite often carries through for my characters. So I think also when I go back, to another age, that, like, it's kind of top of mind. So when other people are just like, yay, being a kid is so great, I just don't remember it that way. There are things that are fun, but there are also things that can be stressful too, and that you don't have control over. So, in Eden's case, to think like, oh, I'm too young to get a job, um, but I can find a killer. That can be my summer vacation. I just thought it was so fun, um, at least to explore fictionally.
I couldn't help but notice her last name though, Z. Any relationship to your other character, Hope Z?
Yes, exactly. So my main series is with Hope Sze, and Eden is her younger cousin, but it's a secret. So they don't know each other. Eden does not know her father's family. And that's a subplot of the book, that her mom, who loves her very much, never told her about her father's side of the family. And it ends up being part of the mystery. So, like, ideally in later books, she'll get to know that side of the family, and including Hope. But we'll see what happens.
Knowing your writing process, we actually are going to have to find out to see if you are going to have that relationship because you like to keep us guessing a lot. Um, and actually, you kind of asked my last, or you kind of answered my last question there, is that were you going to write more of her, more of Eden?
I have written a short story with her, and I have been exploring the idea of what else to do with her. And it seems like summer camp is a big part of YA. Like, there's a whole subgenre. So I might be exploring that. We'll have to see. Maybe for 2027 or 2026.
Yeah, you have a very creative mind when it comes to your writing, and you seem to allow it to flow. And you've written romance, you write short stories. Um, they're all often interlinked. Could you tell us a little bit about your writing process?
So it's actually an interesting balance. I'm trying to balance that a bit now, because you will, like, with every creative work, you're balancing what you want to write with the market forces. And so I'll never be a complete capitalist where I only write what's hot. I it doesn't make me happy. But I do want to I do want people to buy my books, and as part of making the conversation. I don't want to only be talking to myself or only to a few precious people like yourself. So um, I'm trying to balance these two. And one of the things that I did do was I took the Clifton Strengths, which you may have heard of. Becca Syme has a whole series of things for authors. And I discovered that my number one strength, the idea is like you try and look at the things that you're strongest in and then elevate them instead of looking at the things that you're not good at and trying to work on those. And my number one was ideation, which means like thinking outside the box, basically. And I'm always thinking outside the box. To be honest, I don't even recognize that there is a box. Like all the time, people are just like, "Well, you can't do that." I'm like, "What?" I just have no idea. So the good news is that I'm not afraid to explore, and the bad news is that other people are just like still saying what back to me, right? It's just not good. Um, so I'm trying to balance these two and see what happens. So it's a work in progress for me too. Um, but I That's why part of the reason why I'm very grateful to the Crime Writers of Canada to be able to recognize what I'm doing, even if it is a little bit edgy or different.
Well, speaking of different, the last time we spoke, you were working on the seven deadly sins and like seven books on the seven deadly sins. How is that going?
Oh, great! Sloth is coming out in October, and so that's called "Killing Me Slothly." I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I work really hard on my puns, So, and to be honest, for that one, I wanted to do. It was hard to think of sloth and murder. Those things didn't
Mhm.
go together in my head, and I worked on that a long time. And I originally wanted to have yoga in it. Well, it does have yoga in it, and so I wanted to call it Namaste.
Oh, that's a good one too.
I know it's so good, but then when I looked it up, someone trademarked Namaste as a
Oh,
yoga teacher.
mm,
Yes. So then I was like looking at it, I'm like, ooh, even if you like change it slightly, it's trademark is a hard and fast thing. And in fact, one of the international thriller writers said to me, he's like, "What's Namaste?" Like he didn't get it at all. So if
yeah, I
you
guess there's
don't,
that too.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you don't know yoga or Sanskrit at all, then it may not make any sense to you. So I'm just like, maybe you don't know the song "Killing Me Softly," but you might be able to understand it anyway. So hopefully people get it and enjoy it.
I think they will. Um, well, you've been nominated for two awards, so then that's not ignore the short story. So the longest night of the year takes place in Montreal's Chinatown. Is there a reason why you did, or you located it there?
So this was interesting. Christine Catherine Rush loves Christmas and holiday stories. It doesn't have to be Christmas, sorry. Anything sort of American Thanksgiving to New Year's Day. And she wanted a noir story, which means, literally dark, but also like crime. It can be hopeless, even. Like, just really like getting to the nitty gritty, that you're not afraid to say how bad things can get. And um, I think of my friend Tanis Mallow, who thinks of noir as very honest. Like, for her, she may like cozies, but she thinks that making death pretty is not honest. For her, she's like, if someone's going to die, then you show the death. Um, and I can see both things. I love the lightness of cozies and like as an escape, and there's an innocence to them which I really enjoy. But I also then appreciate someone not pulling any punches and being just like, sometimes life is grim. I think we're all seeing that now, or have been for the last 5 years. So in this case, I often for my hope stories, my hope novels, and for short stories, I will look at true crime. So I will look at the headlines and see what happens. And in this case, it was a true story of what happened in Edmonton. I don't know if I want to get into exactly because it might be a spoiler for the story itself, but it was a terrible story in Edmonton, Chinatown, of two murders that could have been prevented, that should have been prevented, and there was actually a legal injunction against what had happened. So I may not use the term exactly right, but that's the idea. And the family had come forward and was looking for justice. And I felt like, unfortunately, I can't bring that to you, but I can tell a story that is not exactly your story, but dovetails with your story or mirrors your story, and makes people think. So that was my hope with this story.
And I saw at the end you dedicated it, I'm assuming, to them.
Yes.
Um, let's go. Let me ask you this. I have so many questions. Let's go with this one because there's another
Okay.
great line in this one. It's not your first line, but it kind of talks about immigrant families or the sense that immigrant families have of is my parents taught me to eat bitterness from a young age so that I could tolerate tragedy without falling apart. That seems to be a theme of the story. Was that a central theme for you, or is it just the way it is?
For this story or for my life?
I didn't think your
I'm
life for the
serious.
story.
Hmm. Yeah, I have to say, so my family was not the traditional Chinese family in that, um, my parents wanted us to speak English and French. Like they didn't teach us Chinese. And so they didn't use this expression with us. So it didn't apply so much to our life, but the actual theme still came through, which was like, you have to work hard. You have to be prepared for people, for life to be unfair, like people discriminate against you always, which we have seen also happening recently. So I would say you're right that for the longest night of the year, that does capture the theme quite well. And and yet the story is not without hope because again, the idea is that Chinatown is a community and they come together and they protect each other. So even when things are tough, you still find each other would also be a theme in the story.
Um, when it comes to writing short stories, I find it a hard market. Maybe it's expanding. Do you worry about that when you write a short story? Like, is there going to be a home for this story? Will anybody ever see it?
Yeah. Yeah. And for mystery, I'm afraid that the big two, well, I'm not afraid of it, but it's just a fact that the big two are, so this one was published in Ellery Queen, and I've also been published in Alfred Hitchcock. But those are the two professional markets. So if you don't place in those two, then it's a little bit like, where do they go? Um, you know, a lot of the time, like, so I find that fantasy and science fiction markets, like they tend to be a lot more and they are growing. But for some reason, mystery, thriller, suspense tends to be a smaller world. Um, I always worry about, I mean, I guess it's part of the eating bitterness thing. I always worry about what's going to happen to my babies, like what's going to happen to these stories. And I say the like one saving grace is that there are more avenues now. So I haven't fully explored it, but I talked to a friend, Thorn Coyle, and she was like, "Oh, I just always send my stories to my Patreon
Hmm.
supporters." So she has a guaranteed market for her story. I apologize, wrong pronoun, for their stories, and that gives them a lot of security that we would all love, right? And so
Mhm.
then I'm like, oh, that's something to think about. Should I look into subscriptions more so that I can have that kind of baseline? Because I find that nobody really talks about how writing is a mental game and it's a long-term game. And I've struggled with that more for the last year, just being like, what is the point? Does anybody care? And finding the right people who get you and who are luckily in a position where they can help support you is just invaluable. So um, if not in the conventional markets, then it is possible to independently publish, and or you can spin off into other things. So for example, if you have a speculative element, then you would try and place them in a fantasy and science fiction place. Or if you're more literary, then you go to a literary journal. um, there are ways of pivoting, but then you just run out of time and energy. So Isn't that always the way?
It is. Well, let's end with this one. We mentioned that the Red Rock Killer won the ITW BIPOC scholarship. Let's start with, just in case, explaining what BIPOC is and is it important to you?
Okay, yes. I feel like I should explain both the acronyms because people
Sure.
might not get it. So ITW is International
Mhm.
Thriller Writers, which are wonderful. And then BIPOC means Black, Indigenous, People of Color. Um, is it important to me? It's crucial to me. So I used to write just anybody. That was my motto. Like I just enjoyed, taking on other people's skin, kind of. If that's not too graphic a way of putting it. And so, whatever age, whatever century, like I'm just like, hey, I'm exploring, I'm happy. But I was reading Glamour magazine actually, and they just summarized a survey where they were looking at diversity in film. So they said, okay, this percentage of people on screen were this race. And of course, they're almost all white, a little bit black, a little bit Hispanic. And it was the year that Avatar came out. So the chance of seeing somebody with blue skin was equal to the amount of Asian people. And I was shocked and said to myself, holy cow, if nobody is going to represent Asians, then it has to be me. And it was just a huge switch. Like from then on, I almost only write BIPOC people. Um, because and later on then representation became more of a thing. But when I'm reading and my writing, I'm just like, it's not okay. Like Sandra Oh had pointed out, she said, if you look at Sex in the City, which I really enjoyed at the time, but she was like, did you see how New York looked? And she was like, there was almost no people of color there. And it was sobering. And for me too, that I just was like, I didn't even notice. But now I would. So I think that people in general are more interested in seeing more representation. And I hope that I can help spread the joy. And I'm really proud of ITW and other organizations who are helping to foster it with their awards and recognition.
Well, congratulations on being nominated twice and all the other awards. Well deserved, well deserved. It was a pleasure chatting with you again, and I'm gonna have to wish you the best of luck because, as I tell everyone, I don't know who won, so I truly mean best of luck.
Thank you, Eric. I mean, it's better for you not to know, right?
Oh,
So
I
you're
don't think
always
I could
neutral.
do. I don't think I could do this if I knew.
Yeah, it's a mystery. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Eric. Always a pleasure.